I've mentioned this a few times on my channel. I know it's a little different from my normal content, but in the early 2000s, I started going to flea markets and using eBay to collect original NES Nintendo games, the 8-bit Nintendo. I would go to flea markets and find complete games and would spend like $10 to $20 on games, sometimes even less. And I did that all the time. When you become a collector, you become a little obsessed. So I would go all the time, and I had my best friend at the time come with me, and he started collecting as well. But I really got into it. And there was also a video game store called Microplay, and they have like 5 stores in Winnipeg where I live. And they bought out a movie store, video game store, whatever. And they got like hundreds and hundreds of Nintendo games, and they were selling them complete for $5 a piece. So I went and bought a whole bunch. It was in the early 2000s. Honestly, I just hit it at the right time where these games weren't worth much and no one thought anything about it. But for some reason, I was very interested and I wanted to start collecting them. It was very nostalgic. It brought me back to my youth, and it's just something that made me think of childhood. And a lot of people collect like 80s and 90s video games and toys nowadays, and I follow YouTube channels that do that stuff as well. I made the mistake of selling off my collection before it really hit the peak after COVID. So an example is Zombie Nation, the Nintendo game. I bought it complete in mint condition for $15 at a flea market. It's worth $999 complete now. Right? And again, this video isn't about like money and that kind of thing. I don't care, but I'm like, I had stuff that was very valuable and I hit it at the right time. I think I've done that a few times in my life. And I pray that believing in Jesus and having salvation is going to be the next big thing that people want to quote unquote collect. Again, that might seem rude and whatever, but I want people to go from trendy things and like, oh, this music is trendy, video games are trendy. How about people believe in Jesus and have salvation? How about we make that the trend so people can be saved, okay? Because that's the meaning of life. When I was on eBay, I probably got up to like 80 factory sealed games. Factory sealed means they're sealed in the original plastic wrap and they have what's called an H seam on the back. So you know it's an original game that has never been opened. My total collection was probably around 500 to 600 games at one point in my collection. DuckTales, which is a very popular, good NES game, I bought it for $25 on eBay, brand new with the H seam in the factory seal. The new price is $882 now. I bought it for $25 in the early 2000s. I bought a lot of games, about I think 7 games for $240. And this person sold me that, and it was full of, I probably mentioned it before, and like way more expensive games, like really rare games. But this game here, Panic Restaurant, I probably paid $30 for it, and it was complete. Now it's complete. It goes for $2,331.15. That's what it goes for. So I bring this up because I'm kind of like, I sold my stuff off at the wrong time. I made a mistake. I really like collecting and collections and I get into guitar gear as well too. I like to collect that and I've sold off some of that. It's always a mistake selling things off because you'll regret it. I regret it, right? But sometimes you just need money or you're just kind of bored of things. You want to sell things to make a profit. But I could have made a much bigger profit nowadays. But you know what the Bible says? You know what Jesus says in red letters in Matthew 6:20? But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break in nor steal. Part of why I sold off my Nintendo collection was because I was moving around a lot at the time, from a house to an apartment, back home to an apartment, whatever. and it got tiresome, like loading up these hundreds of games in boxes and moving them around. And again, I guess I just wanted to like make some money off of the games that I paid very cheap for. But what's more important is Matthew 6:20. Lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break in through nor steal. We will live in heaven and earth with God, a new heaven, new earth, with a new glorified body. We won't die or get sick or have pain or cry. And we will have treasures in heaven. I hope I'm not thinking too much out of the box here, but like if the Lord has a home for me that he made without human hands, right? The Lord went to make a place for us to live, right? We all know that, Christians, right? The Lord went to make a place for us to come home and live. If there so happens to be an acoustic guitar from God, like, again, I know that's a little strange, but I'm just saying, an acoustic guitar from God that I can have forever and cherish, that would be a treasure in heaven. I want my family to be my treasures in heaven. First of all, I've said that in the past, and that's what I truly want. Life without your family sucks. But if I'm talking about material things a little bit here, and I don't talk about material things too often, but I just mentioned like these games that, right? Like I went flea market shopping and got them for basically nothing, and they're worth thousands of dollars nowadays. I had a huge collection of these things. But I want my family to be my treasure in heaven. And if I ask for like one material thing, it would be an acoustic guitar that God has like set in place for me to like walk in my home and see that acoustic guitar there and go, "Oh my words, that is amazing." An acoustic guitar from God. Once more, I know this sounds pretty hokey pokey, and maybe I'm just imagining this and just trying to be a goofball, and but would like if you yourself play guitar, don't you think that would be an absolute amazing thing to have, an acoustic guitar from God, like made with his hands or not made with human hands or whatever you want to say, something that like I can treasure forever and like go to and like love and cherish. It's a material possession, so if it doesn't happen, I'm not going to be heartbroken. I'm just saying, right? Brothers and sisters, I like playing guitar, I like singing. I like to sing on Sundays at church, like do praise and worship. I love doing that, and I want to do that with you guys someday, and we will sing a new song. But again, just just imagine that if you like guitar, like I like electric and acoustic guitar. Like guitar is guitar. They're different. You play them a little differently and they sound different obviously, but an acoustic guitar made of wood and metal and like from God, that would be a treasure in heaven for me. It doesn't have to be like expensive, but like if it's from God, it's going to be an absolutely amazing thing. Like I have a bit of collector mentality, as I just said. Like I collect Nintendo games, and some people collect sports cards or, like spoons. So my grandma used to collect spoons a little bit. That's kind of funny. But to have one guitar from God sitting in the house that I've been waiting to live in my whole life, that would be amazing. And that would absolutely, I don't know. I don't know the words to say for that. It would be absolutely amazing, and I would be so honored to have that. I'm not expecting that, but I'm just throwing it out there, right? Maybe I've mentioned it to God in my lame prayers, or like because when I pray usually it's about other people and it's about me being a good and faithful servant and it's about his kingdom come and it's about good things for working for the good, fighting the good fight. I want to do that. I'm not trying to pray. I'm not going to pray for like money and material things and whatever. But again, if I'm going there, an acoustic guitar from God, what right? Wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that just be something to just absolutely treasure and be like, oh my goodness, like, Anyways, this is probably one of the weirdest videos I've made. I'm sorry if it's weird, and I'm just getting on here and just kind of like changing it up a little bit, right? Like, again, I was a NES collector. Look at the prices of these games. Like, it's ridiculous nowadays. This is Price Charting, the website. New price, $882. I paid $25 for that in the early 2000s. That is crazy inflation. Panic Restaurant, which is actually a really good game with good graphics for Nintendo. It's a really good game, and it's a very rare game. The new price is $9,000. The graded price is $11,000. I had it complete for $2,000, but again, I sold it off and didn't really think about it at the time. I should have held on to these things, right? But again, I'm not mad because we're supposed to lay up for ourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break in nor do they steal. And that's an amazing thing. Brothers and sisters, I can't wait to be with you guys, to be with the Lord, to be caught up in the air, to go on for the millennial reign, and then to forever live in a new heaven, new earth with a new glorified body. That stuff is worth way more than DuckTales, the video game. Okay, I realize that. But I'm just saying, right? Like, I'm a collector, or I was a collector. I still have that mentality. I like to collect things. But in the past many years, like in my apartment, I live in a pretty humble apartment with not many, like I got a couch and a bed and, like I have a guitar and some pedals and a little amp and whatever, like, but I really don't care for stuff nowadays. Waiting on the Lord is more important. Exposing the darkness is more important. I'd rather do that than have stuff. I don't really care about stuff, even if it's worth a lot of money. We all need money to survive in this world, but God says in His Word that the love of money is the root of all evil. And a lot of people love money and they want to make that first, even certain Christians and certain pastors. So, brothers and sisters, I made this weird video just to kind of like do something a little different. And, like, again, I miss my collection of games because it was something fun to do. And like, it was basically what it was. It was treasure hunting. It was treasure hunting. But I know right here in red letters, Jesus Christ, God, tells us to lay up ourselves treasures in heaven. And don't worry about treasures on this earth where people can steal and they can, they can sun fade, they can rust, they can, like, whatever you're into. A lot of people are into cars, a lot of people are into this, that, and the other. It doesn't matter what you're into, but like storing up your treasures in heaven is way more important than having treasures on earth, is my point. Brothers and sisters, everyone else, God bless you.